What's going on, everybody? Anthony Cervino here on the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel with my top players we should buy, sell, and hold. Entering Fantasy Football Week 9, let's start with the buys. We're going to start with Jayden Reed. And if you go and check out the shorts section of this channel, you'll see I do a panic meter video every week. Jayden Reed was featured on it. And yes, I am panicking on Jayden Reed, but that also makes him a terrific buy low player. Why? Because Jayden Reed isn't performing at his best right now. His past two games, under 7.5 PPR points in each game, 7 total targets, 4 total receptions, 65 total yards. We know Jayden Reed and what he's capable of in this offense. He's had a terrific start to the year, but he's been quiet in the second half, including the aforementioned past two meetings that were smash matchups, really against Houston, who they give up production to wide receivers, despite having a good overall defense. And in Jacksonville, that was a smash spot, but a letdown spot. So why are we buying low on Jayden Reed? Well, we know the quarterback situation. While he avoided major injury, Jordan Love is still dealing with another lower body injury. Maybe he's out a game or two. Maybe the Jayden Reed fantasy football manager doesn't believe he's going to bounce back and get these spike weeks like we saw early on. Maybe he's worried about Malik Willis. Maybe he's worried about recurring injury at the quarterback position. And we know that impacts everybody else on this offense. The prime buy low window is here. You get Detroit, the bye week, and then coming out of the bye, the rest of season schedule for Jayden Reed is promising. Weeks 11 and 13, he has tough matchups. But if we look at weeks 14 to 17, Detroit, Seattle, New Orleans, in week 16, which is the game we play to get to the fantasy championship, and then at Minnesota, the easiest matchup for enemy wide receivers in week 17 in the fantasy championship, I want to buy low on Jayden Reed because he's still getting 17.5% of his team targets, which is still 77th percentile using the tools on rotowire.com. He's outstanding after the catch, which we know he's averaging 8.5 yards after the catch. That's 98th percentile. And he's averaging 2.46 yards per route run, which is 92nd percentile. The stars are aligning. It's all there for Jayden Reed. It's just a matter of when this ticking time bomb is going to pop once again. This might be the lowest we will be able to buy Jayden Reed all year. Let's move on to another buy, Deebo Samuel. There's a lot of volatility here with Deebo Samuel. Of course, we know he's battled injury in recent weeks. If we look at this Dallas game, right? Sunday Night Football, meager 12.6 PPR points. Well, we have to remember there was a couple of big plays, including a big touchdown called back, which would have padded Deebo Samuel's statistics. If we look at the usage, he was given 3 red zone rushes. He was given 1 red zone target in this football game. There's no more Brandon Ayuk. And we know when Brandon Ayuk is off the field, Deebo Samuel is going to get more opportunity. What was unique about this game against Dallas, there was no Juwan Jennings either. So you had 2 wide receivers out, no CMC. Really, the Deebo is a focal point. And Dallas did their best to not let Deebo Samuel beat them. This isn't going to last long. Right now, the 49ers are entering their bye week. If a Deebo Samuel fantasy manager, they might be sitting on him. They can't use him anyway this week. They know CMC and Jennings are coming back, and maybe that scares them off. Hey, this team's is going to have so many mouths to feed, and Deebo's not performing anyway. I need to get rid of this guy and get something back that I can use right now. I need a win. This is your time to swoop in. Because what do we know? The more weapons on an offense, the less an enemy defensive coordinator can game plan against you. So it will no longer be in week 10 against Tampa, which is one of the best matchups that you can get. We're likely getting CMC back. We're likely getting Jennings back. We're going to get a healthier version of Deebo. We have Kittle. Pick your poison. And most likely, the enemy defensive coordinator is going to game plan to take out CMC. It's a Deebo Samuel game written all over it. In fact, Tampa's so bad, multiple guys in this 49ers offense, in theory, should pop. And again, despite a tougher rest of season schedule, as long as all these weapons stay healthy, there's enough to go around. There's enough efficiency. And we saw that last year, how efficient this 49ers offense was when everybody was healthy, and Deebo Samuel was a big part of it. I would buy low on him going into the bye week while you still can, because Deebo, once again, like I get the fantasy numbers say one thing, the metrics say another. 8.5 yards after the catch on average, being targeted on 25.2% of the routes he is running. The metrics are there telling us that moving forward, Deebo Samuel could be a menace on the football field. Let's go to another player. We can't use him now. Brian Thomas Jr. What do we know? He's dealing with a chest injury. He's day-to-day. Maybe he misses a game. Maybe he misses a few. What else do we know? Well, we also know that Christian Kirk, a target volume normally in this Jaguars passing attack, is out for the year. Brian Thomas, outstanding rookie, one of the best fantasy football wide receivers in PPR. He's going to eat once he comes back from injury. When we talk about a potential uptick in volume, he's going to be getting a legitimate increase. There is no more Christian Kirk. Who are these targets going to go to? Parker Washington? Tim Jones? When Brian Thomas Jr. comes back, he's going to be hyper targeted along with a guy like Evan Ingram. And right now, he's already getting 20.2% of the team targets and being targeted on 25.3 of the routes he is running. He's getting 28.9% of his teamed air yards and averaging 2.95 yards per route run. This is a really good football player. I know guys like Nabors and Harrison, they get all the hype. Brian Thomas, you can make the case, could be the best rookie wide receiver in this class right now. Fantasy football wise, solid start to the year, but he's really come on since week 4, in which he's had 3 games over 20 PPR points. And he's playing well in bad matchups. It's not just like he's taken off in the good matchups. He's holding his own in matchups where he really shouldn't be. I get it. You look at the schedule, this playoff schedule, and down the stretch schedule for Jacksonville wide receivers, it is not good from weeks 14 to 17. Top 8 matchups are better. Tennessee, Jets, Vegas, Tennessee. So you're going to say, Anthony, why are we buying him? We're buying him because in fantasy football, if you want to chase wins, you want to chase championships, you want to chase volume. And Brian Thomas, we know, has a skill set. He has the potential opportunity. And without Christian Kirk, there's a potential for monstrous volume. And despite the bad matchups, I want the monstrous volume in the fantasy playoffs. And right now is the cheapest we're going to buy Brian Thomas because we might not be able to use him for a game or 2. If you like content like this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the alert icon. So you'll be notified anytime we go live to answer your questions, or we drop content like this. If you have start, sit questions, waiver wire questions, or buy, sell, hold questions, ask them in the comments below. We will get back to you as soon as we can. Let's go to players we are selling. Malik Nabors, I get it. It's controversial because Malik Nabors gets hyper targeted. How do we sell a player? And if you remember, at the start of the year, 3 out of the first 4 games, over 23 PPR points, 18, 12, and 15 targets. Then we hit the injury. Then we hit week 7. What was significant in week 7? Andrew Thomas, stud tackle on the Giants. He's done for the year. And what happens in week 7 against Philly? Daniel Jones turns back into the proverbial pumpkin because Daniel Jones is playing well this year. But Daniel Jones, without protection, is very much below average. We saw that on national TV against Pittsburgh. While Malik Nabors, hyper-targeted, had 13, managed 14.1 PPR points. If we go back to those games where Malik was getting double-digit targets, he was giving us in the 20s. The difference is Daniel Jones isn't comfortable with his throws any longer with all the pressure in his face. So Nabors effective, 7 for 71. Didn't score. Wasn't putting up the big yards. And I think this is going to impact him moving forward. I think Nabors is going to be a terrific high floor player. Maybe he has some pop games left in him down the stretch because he has a positive matchup when it comes to wide receiver versus opponent. Down the stretch, it's fine. It's great. My biggest worry is Daniel Jones being uncomfortable, making mistakes, and making bad throws. So, yeah, we're going to expect a lot of targets. I expect the catchable target rate and the quality of those targets to regress like we've seen in the past 2 games. Malik Nabors is a sell high because I still think you can get a premium for this outstanding rookie. Let's go to another sell high, Sam LaPorta. LaPorta had his best all-around game of the year this week. 6 targets, season high. 6 receptions, season high. 48 yards, season high. Second touchdown in the past 3 games. Season high, 16.8 PPR points. Why did we see season highs across the board this week in a tough matchup against Tennessee, but we couldn't see anything close to this earlier this year? The difference is Jameson Williams is serving a suspension for the PEDs. You take Jameson Williams off the field. That's one less weapon for Jared Goff at his disposal. And we saw the result go in favor of Sam LaPorta. Fantasy football isn't hard. It's a numbers game. So what happens in a week when Jameson Williams clears the suspension and he's back on the field? What happens to Sam LaPorta? There's a good chance, because we've seen such a large sample size of it this year already, that Sam LaPorta goes back and sees fewer than 5 targets. And that was a good game in every game. Now is the time to sell LaPorta because he's at the highest he's been all year when it comes to value. Fantasy managers in your league, they're remembering this is the LaPorta from last year that finished as a top 2 tight end. This is the guy. Is finally here. And they're not correlating the Jameson Williams suspension to this uptick in production. I'm selling LaPorta now. Don't wait until week 9, right? Because sell him now. Let the other guy have him for week 9. Because after week 9, all the reports on national media and everybody in the fantasy football universe are going to be writing about Jameson's coming back. What's going to happen to LaPorta? Nobody's thinking about that right now. Everybody's on a high note. LaPorta, sell him now. Let's close out 2 players to hold. I'm holding on to Tank Dell. And the reason why I'm holding on to Tank Dell is because there is uncertainty with Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, non-contact injury this past week. We don't know what's going on. There's no indication if this is a long-term injury, if it's a short-term injury. We just know that they play in a short week on Thursday Night Football, and there's a good chance we're not going to see Stephon Diggs. We don't have a definitive answer. Is this a season-long injury or not? Because if it is, that's one less weapon for Stroud. That's one less wide receiver to compete for targets in this wide receiver room that became crowded when they brought in Diggs this offseason. I am holding on to Tank Dell because Nico Collins is coming back. And that's good for Tank Dell. Nico is going to draw all that elite coverage. And Tank Dell could very well pop rest of the season, assuming Stephon Diggs is going to be gone, right? I'm assuming it's a non-contact injury. Usually those are long-term. And the fact that we don't have an answer, right? If it's good, right? Like Jordan Love, he goes down. They tell us right away, hey, he avoided disaster. It's another short-term thing. If it's a short-term injury for Stephon Diggs, I would want to assume we would know about it already. So I'm going to assume the worst. We're going to hold on to Tank Dell Tank Dell, who in 2 out of his past 3 games, double-digit PPR points, scoring a touchdown. He's had a game with 9 targets, and the rest of season schedule is strong. This is a competitive football team, and they're going to have to lean on their young, talented wideout. And again, Nico Collins coming back soon. He's going to draw the elite coverage. I think there's some special games ahead for Tank Dell. Let's finish out Cade Otton. Cade Otton is coming off back-to-back career games. He's had back-to-back games, 10 targets, 8 receptions, 81 yards. That's his floor. Back-to-back games with 18 and 29 PPR points. But it's not just about these 2 games. He's been coming on this season. He has now put up at least 9.5 tight end PPR points in every game but one since week 3. He has had 5 games this year with at least 6 targets, 4 games with at least 8 targets since week 3. I get it. You're going to say, well, Mike Evans is going to come back. McMillan's going to be more acclimated. They have Trey Palmer. Maybe Cade Otton turns back into a pumpkin, but I'm going to say pump the brakes. Chris Godwin, the power slot in this offense, he's done for the year, right? A lot of his routes in the slot, intermediate, chain mover, that's Cade Otton now. Cade Otton, the tight end. He's going to be the chain mover. He has the longest rapport out of anybody in this offense right now until Mike Evans comes back with Baker Mayfield. You need a first down. Cade Otton is already proving he can go get that. He's reliable. Right now, he's getting 18.2% of the team targets. He's being targeted on 25% of the routes he is running. He is a underrated to very good tight end with a lot of opportunity in front of him. In the past 3 games, he has had 6 red zone targets, including 3 last week. And in 2 of the past 3 games, he has totaled 3 touchdowns. I am holding on to Cade Otton for even when Mike Evans returns.